Hello everyone, my name is Tyrone Harold Dom. I'm 56 years old and a Canadian citizen from Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm not a lawyer nor offering any legal advice. I spent a great number of hours in all levels of the British Columbia civil courts, and this have a vast knowledge of how they work. To me, the Supreme Court of British Columbia certainly does not seem to be as honest as one would think. Look at the evidence in this video and you can easily come to your own conclusions. Howie, as Chief Financial Officer, appear to be facing politically motivated extradition proceedings in the Supreme Court of British Columbia. It is highly speculated that the Prime Minister's Office of Canada is interfering with the facts of the matter. Is it even possible that the Prime Minister's office could interfere with the judicial system and ask, tell, or order a judge to look the other way, ignoring the facts of the case, and this taking it to the next level of breaching his or her oath of office as a Supreme Court judge? My answer to you is 100% yes. And back on July 14, 2016, the Honorable Mr. Justice GC Weatherill of the Supreme Court of British Columbia did just that. The case involved the Government of Canada granting the millions of Canadian taxpayers' money as startup capital, a Canadian stock fraud of $1.8 billion US, a president and CEO of the publicly traded company Petromin Resources Ltd, that had direct connections to the Prime Minister of Canada's office, Dr. Ross Gorrell, President, Chief Executive Officer and Director of Petromin Resources Ltd, committing perjury in the Supreme Court of British Columbia before the not-so-honorable Mr. Justice GC Weatherill of the Supreme Court of British Columbia, a learned person that ignored the facts before him, his oath to office, and did what he was told or ordered by the higher-ups. Ms. Wanzhou, this is in no way any legal advice, but the system here in Canada, in particular British Columbia, is broken. Nobody in the government here cares about right or wrong. In the end, even if you win, the government here also wins. They got you to spend millions of your dollars that is not recoverable to keep their broken system going. Let me easily demonstrate how on July 14, 2016, the not-so-honorable Mr. Justice GC Weatherill of the Supreme Court of British Columbia ignored facts that were put before him, ignored his oath of office, and allowed a defendant, Dr. Ross Gorrell, in an action before him to commit perjury. Perjury is a serious offense in Canada that usually results in jail time. The evidence was later put before the Honorable Mr. Justice Grauer and Justice Ayer, both of which further ignored the facts before them and avoided the issue of perjury, this to protect Justice Weatherill. The British Columbia Securities Commission failed to open a file to investigate the $1.8 billion stock fraud, and the Office of the Information Commissioner of Canada joined hands with the Prime Minister of Canada's office, and after years of trying to get copies of redacted documents, they advised it was the originals that were accidentally redacted and the documents no longer existed. It's my opinion, and the evidence strongly suggests, the Prime Minister of Canada's office interfered with the order dated July 14, 2016 of Mr. Justice GC Weatherill, where he deliberately ignored the facts before him and breached his oath to office as an Honorable Justice of the Supreme Court of British Columbia. In an affidavit number 1 of Dr. Ross Gorrell, filed in the Supreme Court of British Columbia, the 27th day of January 2016, action number S160090, Vancouver Registry, Dr. Ross Gorrell swore at paragraph 1 that he is the President, the Chief Executive Officer, and a director of Petromin Resources Ltd. At paragraph 2, Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell further swore that he is authorized by Petromin Resources Ltd. to swear his affidavit in connection with the proceeding. The proceedings essentially are legally defined as the misappropriation of a corporate opportunity under the principles articulated in Canadian Aero Services Ltd. versus O'Malley, 1974, SCR 592. The misappropriation of a corporate opportunity comes into play at paragraph 28 of Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell's affidavit, where he swore, around the same time that Petromin Resources Ltd. acquired 40.7% interest in TerraWest, Mega Investment Development Corporation acquired a 40% interest in the capital of TerraWest. What essentially happened here was Petromin Resources Ltd. paid double the price of the 40.7% interest in TerraWest that it acquired, and another newly formed corporation, Mega Investment Development, a company formed and hidden in Hong Kong, acquired a 40% interest in TerraWest for free. Since Petromin Resources Ltd. is or was a publicly traded company on the TSX Venture Exchange, their public disclosures have to be disclosed on sedar.com. A quick search on sedar.com for Petromin news release dated March 31, 2015 discloses the following. At paragraph 1, TerraWest Energy Corporation is involved in an international arbitration dispute. At paragraph 2, the dispute seeks $1.8 billion in damages. At paragraph 4, Petromin Resources Ltd. invested in TerraWest Energy Corp. back in 2007 and is a major shareholder. Back at paragraph 28 of the affidavit of Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell, Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell goes on to perjure himself under oath by stating, prior to purchasing shares of TerraWest, Mega was not related or affiliated directly or indirectly to either Petromin or TerraWest. The sole director of Mega Investment Development at all material times is Jimmy Kwok Kwong Lau, the same director of Petromin Resources Ltd. at all material times. The Canadian case law is clear that a director of a company, and in particular a director holding the position of president and or chief executive officer, has obligations to fully know all the details and day-to-day business of his or her company. This meaning there is no excuse available to Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell. He should have known or ought to have known his statements were false at all material times. Further, Mega Investment Development only had one sole director, Jimmy Kwok Kwong Lau, the same director that was on the board of directors of Petromin Resources Ltd. with Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell at all material times. The evidence to link the two companies, Petromin Resources Ltd. and Mega Investment Development Corp., together at all material times, contrary to Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell's sworn affidavit, is found in the following documents. A reminder, Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell swore at paragraph 28 that prior to purchasing the shares of TerraWest, Mega was not related or affiliated directly or indirectly to either Petromin or TerraWest. This part of the long drawn-out complicated fraud before Justice GC Weatherill started with evidence of Petromin Resources Ltd. News release dated November 19, 2007, where it stated at paragraph 1, Petromin Resources Ltd., the company, is pleased to announce that the company and its nominee, Mega Investment Development Corp., a false and misleading statement, as the real name turns out to be Mega Investment Development Ltd, have successfully acquired 80% ownership of TerraWest Energy Corporation, TerraWest. At paragraph 10 of the news release, it states further, the transaction was carried out at arm's length, and it was further signed on behalf of the board of directors by A. Ross Gorrell, co-chairman and president of Petromin Resources Ltd. A search in Hong Kong at the company's registry, Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, company name search for Mega Investment Development Limited, shows its date of incorporation being the 25th of July 2007. This is a certified true copy of this document, as you will see when we get to the last page, provided by the company's registry, Hong Kong Special Administrative Region for Mega Investment Development Limited, showing the surname of the director as Lau, other names Kwok Kwong, and the date of appointment being the 11th day of September 2007, and this is confirmed in the note 1. All dates are presented in date, month, year format. And as we get to the bottom of the report, you'll see it's stamped here on the last page, certified true copy, Register of Companies. A further search in the Hong Kong at the company's registry, Hong Kong Special Administrative Region Company Directors Index search, described here, Directors Index search for Mega Investment Development Limited, shows one director, and it's hard to read, but it's Lau Kwok Kwong, and this is displaying record 121 of one record. So it shows and confirms that Kwok Kwong Lau was the sole director of Mega Investment Development Limited since its incorporation. A quick look at the Register of Directors for Petromin Resources Ltd shows Jimmy K.K. Lau as a director from July 2nd, 1996 to April 3, 2007. It further shows on the next page Jimmy K.K. Lau as a director from May 30th, 2007 to current, and this document being sworn November the 4th, 2017. A BC Registry Services company summary search shows the fourth director down on the list as Lau, Jimmy K.K. as of August 7, 2014. The only question now is Kwok Kwong Lau the same person as Jimmy K.K. Lau? The question is answered in another publicly disclosed document of Enviro Energy International Holdings Limited, dated Hong Kong the 18th of September 2007. This was another defunct publicly traded company on the Hong Kong Gem listings that the directors of Petromin Resources Ltd used to further defraud many people of the $1.8 billion US. In this certified true copy of the Enviro Energy International Holdings Ltd news release dated Hong Kong the 18th of September 2007, it goes on at page 5 to talk about an agreement where a vendor, which in this case is Global Richland Investment Limited, and Mr. Lau, it goes on further to state, is a friend of Mr. Chan. Mr. Lau and Mr. Chan first met each other in 1972. Mr. Lau was a director for the period from 1996 to April 2007 of, and is a shareholder holding less than 1% interest in Petromin. Mr. Chan is currently a director, co-chairman, and the chief executive officer of, and is a shareholder holding approximately 3.9% interest in Petromin. Save and disclose above, there is not any other relationship between Mr. Chan and Mr. Lau. On page 9 of this news release, he gets on to definitions. As shown here, these definitions are extremely important because now, through this news release, we've already been informed that Mr. Lau is a director of Petromin and a shareholder of Petromin and a friend of Mr. Chan, who is also a director of Petromin. And if we go down through these definitions and we get down onto page 10 here at the bottom, we'll see Mr. Chan, and then we're going to see Mr. Lau below him. And Mr. Lau is defined as Mr. Lau Kwok Kwong. So Jimmy K.K. Lau in Petromin directors, the KK stands for Kwok Kwong, as this newsletter and the definitions has described Mr. Lau's complete and full name and his identification. The newsletter further goes on to define Petromin as Petromin Resources Ltd, just so there's no confusion there also. Prior to this whole fiasco starting, back in October 5, 2009, on cedar.com, Petromin Resources Ltd is pleased to announce that Mr. Robert Coulette has joined the company's global advisory board and will advise the board of directors in matters relating to international, political, and economic affairs and new business development. Goes on to further state, Mr. Coulette is a distinguished Canadian diplomat. Further goes on and states, personal representative of the Prime Minister of Canada. I played the game Monopoly many times, and now I'm educated. I know what the get out of jail free card's all about. Shortly after Mr. Coulette was appointed, Frank Moritz, M-O-U-R-I-T-S, with the Office of Energy, Research and Development, Natural Resources Canada, received a $500,000 grant on behalf of Petromin Resources Ltd, and the balance of $3.8 million grant was to come after the Prime Minister attended to China and signed all the final agreements in the end of November 2009. On July 14, 2016, in the oral reasons for judgment of Mr. Justice GC Weatherill S1510524, I was refused the opportunity to cross-examine Dr. Arthur Ross Gorrell on his affidavit, and further subjected to a $15,000 special cost order payable forthwith in an attempt to keep me from returning for justice. Justice GC Weatherill, appointed to the bar in 1980, appointed to the Queen's Bench in 2008, and then as a justice on October 2nd, 2013 by the Honorable Peter MacKay, PC, QC, MP for Central Nova, Minister of Justice and Attorney General for Canada. Certainly a very learned individual. What went wrong here, Mr. Weatherill? Were you vetted wrong? Did someone in the federal government tell you or order you to ignore your oath to office? Were you bribed? Did you receive any of the $1.8 billion US?